Okay, and we are on. All right, so guys, I have a gentleman here by the name of Johnny Richardson. He's an older gentleman. He's 40 years old. He's still a young cat, but he's very, very successful. So this is a treat and delight for everybody. We're going to be learning a lot, you get me, from him on his mind map for success. This episode is called Shark Frenzy. And a lot of how he came up, you get me, and became successful. I'm talking about the girl, I'm talking about the cars, I'm talking about the business. It's one thing to become wealthy, it's a completely different skill set and mindset entirely when you're creating abundance, specifically for anybody that you have like around you, when he's training a person, making them wealthy, and just the kind of person that he is. So you have all of his social media right here, and it's Johnny Richardson Jr. And then you can find him on Johnny Richardson the Shark. You can Google him, and he will pop right up. So Johnny, you can kind of take it however you want. I'm just going to ask you questions here and there. This is your show specifically. So they're here to learn. I'm here to learn. We're all here to learn.
There you go. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Looks like it's going to be an awesome hour ahead of us. Let's rock and roll wherever you're watching this from, wherever it is. Let's get the show on the road and drop some golden nuggets.
How did you come up? Like how were you raised pretty much before you get me? You had like all the things that we talked about and visualize it and materialize it and the way you are now.
I grew up in the ocean, raised by sharks. That's no. So I was raised up really in a country town in New Jersey, and my mom wanted us as children to be like away from the city life. I even as a 12, 13, you name it, I always was fascinated with the city life, the hustle and bustle. I thought it was so cool. I guess I always had this subconscious thought to be in as a grinder and be out there and just shaking and moving. I'll never forget probably I must have been 5 or 6 years old. My first set of pictures in school. My mom's like, "How do you want to dress?" And I was like, "I want to be in a suit and have a briefcase like my dad." She's like, "Why?" She's like, "Because I want to be a salesman." So you don't hear many kids say that. Most of them are the firefighter and the police officer. So I can't even remember it, but she told me, so it's pretty funny stuff. But the one thing I learned growing up out there is my dad would always press work ethic, putting hard work in, and they embedded it into me pretty tight. Not that they beat me around work ethic and picking corn in the middle of the morning and stuff like that, but always like you put the work in, you're going to get what you want out of it. So that's where I was a little kid selling lemonade out in front of the house for like 75 cents, knocking on neighbors' doors. Can I mow your lawns? You know, I had jobs at a very young age when most people weren't getting their jobs at like 17 or 18. I was years beyond that. So that work ethic was always put in there. And I knew from that moment, no matter how much money you had, whether it was a lot or a little, you always had the ability to make more. And I think a lot of us forget that growing up. We just kind of look at the surface. We can still bang on the doors to mow lawns and sell lemonade. We just do it in a different way now, is what it comes down to. It's like, you got to go out there and do the hard stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of people are looking for the easy stuff and the easy way out to, like I like to say, easy street. But there's a ton of doors you can knock down and do very well for yourself if you're willing to put the work in.
How do you think you became success conscious at a certain point? And
so as far as being success conscious, I just spoke about this morning. There's been little nuggets that have been dropped on me throughout the years growing up, throughout my sales career. And I'm still on my way to being the word successful, because I feel like that's something you're always chasing after, because there's always another level. So, but picking up pieces and little nuggets along the way to help me out on my journey, there was multiple things that in situations and talks and so on and so forth that came up throughout the years. One was this gentleman, Skip, while I was in the car business, spent 9 years in the car business. He told me I was very fresh, young buck in the car business. He said pretty much what my parents raised me up as. He says, if you want to make six figures in this business, you're going to put the hard work in, son. And I don't know what I said to actually get him to say that to me, but there was something that triggered it. But regardless, whatever I said, he triggered something in me. And I never forgot about that at that time. Then, as far as details and better work ethic, there was a gentleman by the name of Bob McCormick that was my GM at Toyota originally before I ended up going and being a truck manager. And he taught me many little things along the way. Just he said, Johnny, one, to be on time is to be late, to be early is to be on time, and to be late is to be forgotten. And you can ask my operation. I tell everybody that every day. If they text me and they say they're running late, they walk in, I'm like, I forgot all about you. So it's like, it's little pieces. Those are just two off the top of my head that were instilled into me for a better work ethic to lead my way into success. So you're going to have a lot of money at the end of the day. That's fine. But if you have horrible work ethic and bad processes and bad ethics, you name it, it's only going to last so long.
Yes,
And
no doubt.
yeah, 100%. That's something you can't buy. There are those life lessons and talks and learning from the older guys at the end of the day.
What are some of the things that when you run your business, you feel like you do better than other entrepreneurs that maybe are making multiple six figures or anybody from your expert perspective so they can be able to explode and get to that next level?
It really comes down to consistency at the end of the day. Because one thing is hard work will beat talent. Because a lot of talented people, they may have some bad habits. They may get their head all big and say, oh, I had a great month. Let me take off for 3 weeks to Costa Rica. It's fine. You got to celebrate a little bit. I'm careful at celebrating wins because I know how I am. If I celebrate a win too long, I get distracted. So I'd celebrate very little. So I like to continue on my plan. The next level is really my reward at the end of the day. So when it comes down to it, if you're staying in your lane and you're focusing to get better at the level that you're at, those other people, sure, they're ahead of you. But if you turn into a dripping faucet and you just continue, you don't stop, you don't take a rest. Granted, we have to sleep at night, train yourself, develop yourself to get up at 4:30 in the morning, get right to work, get right in it. While all these people are sleeping, they're hugging up on your pillow, you're grinding, setting up your day. Half your day has already been productive by the time they're rolling out of bed. So if you keep up with these things, you will beat a lot of people around you that they so-called say is successful to whatever success is to them at the end of the day. That'll put you in the 1% mark. Now, once you get into 1%, now it's a real dogfight because now you're normally in with skill set, talented people, stronger work ethic, and now you're going to really dial in at another method.
And what were some of the things that you did to like maintain your confidence and be able to build on throughout the years? Like while the process you get me of reaching all the levels of success from six figures, seven figures, and that you still do to literally keep going. Because I think what most people don't understand is that they think that rich people are greedy. No, rich people are abundant and they're giving. The poor people are greedy. They don't want to do anything. They just want to stay by themselves. They're thinking, hopefully, maybe just about themselves, hopefully their family, and then they'll stay there. With the best of intentions, good for them. We need them. But to a certain extent, you get me, if everybody were abundant and everybody were to just think bigger and become success conscious, they could be able to do more for their own organizations while they're working for them and everybody else around them because they have opportunity that they already had within their hands because of that success consciousness, thinking abundantly of every single person around them and everybody generating wealth becoming the new norm, which is why we have you on the podcast and why we started it, Winning Success, Social Dynamics, Life by Design. So I mean, what are some of your perspectives on like how you were able to, I guess, maintain, you get me, those abilities of like being in a peak state, you get me, of having a bulletproof mindset and continuously throughout the years reshaping it, redeveloping it, and becoming even tighter and stronger and knittier with the passion and everything, like for everybody else, including myself, to be honest with you, Mr. Richardson.
Yeah, what it really comes down to, where people fail is they're too hard on themselves. And what I mean by that is they're an old person I used to work with before, they had set a great goal is one that you don't hit. there's a couple ways that you look at that. You made that goal so big that it was just like, I never like to use the word impossible, but you still won
Right.
because you beat the crap out of everybody else. But what happens with the majority of people, let's say they miss that goal, they're going to sit there and lick their wounds for an entire month, be upset, be frustrated. They're going to lose the client. They're not going to close the deal. They catch their girlfriend cheating on them, or wife, or husband, or whatever it is. And then they turn into the victim role. What it really comes down to is to weed that out and say, okay, things happen. We're human beings at the end of the day. We do make mistakes, and people do things to us at the same time. So if you can filter that stuff out and say, you know what, this isn't going to affect me. Yeah, I missed it. Yeah, I shouldn't have stayed out late. All right, that was a mistake that I made, for example. So if you can just say, forget about it, you wake up the next day, you're a little bit tired. You're like, you know what? Forget about it. I'm a human being. Everybody falls on their butt once in a while. Yeah, that client, they ghosted me, whatever it is, that's their loss at the end of the day. I'm going to continue moving on to the next one. So while you're continuing moving on to the next one, piling through, next, the guy next to you is like, oh man, that guy burnt me last month. I would have made $20,000. I would have made $100,000. And they're just so upset about it. When new opportunity arises, they can't even see the new opportunity. It's not because their head is so fogged up and frustrated with what's in the past. You focus on what's this way, what's in front of you, what's coming next. That same thing goes when you have a great accomplishment. If you have a great month, people do the same thing. So let's take it there. Now they're like, whoa, I had a great month. I did 20 units. I did 50 units. Yeah, I'm feeling good. They're too worried about patting themselves on the back to where new opportunities coming up. I talk to my agents all the time. I'm like, that's old
Yeah.
news. It's old news. And you have to put that in your head. Do not get a big head with it. They call this the fat cat syndrome in the car business, where I spent 9 years and just like to get a big check, big deals. And they just think about it. Oh, I'm so awesome. I'm so awesome. Forget about it. Weed that stuff out. Continue to the next one. And that's how you get closer to the top
Mm.
guy, closer to the top guy, closer, because they are taking that time to celebrate longer than they should and everything else. And that's how you catch up to other people very quickly.
How did you? I want to definitely have you talk about sales in a little bit, but how did you develop that mindset, or did you have like a shift at some point in life that kind of gave you what you shared, the way that you shared it?
I learned by my mistakes, is what it came down to. I watched myself, and I tell this to people. I say, hey, look, this is what works for me. You might need a little bit more than I do. So I mean, this wasn't brilliance. Took me almost 30 or 15 years to figure this out. And still then I would still pumble once in a while. And I'm like, every time I would go ahead and have a killer month, in my younger 20s, I just crush it. Next day, I'm like, party time. It's time to celebrate. And then I noticed, I'm like, all right, why'd celebrate all weekend or all week? And then next week, I'm like, hey, we should go out and have a nice dinner. I had a great month last month. And I looked at it, then all of a sudden I'm like this. And then the next month goes like this. And then I
Mm.
recover and I'm like this. That's typical was salesperson, where you watch what their income and your units and everything else end up being. So myself, because I would have people around me say, hey, you need to take time to celebrate. And I'm like, yeah, I should take time to celebrate. But they're saying that because that's what worked for them. That isn't what worked for me. My celebration is hitting a new level. My celebration is, you did amazing. What's the next goal? Because that really drove me. What I get out of the big dinner, what I get out of the 3-day entourage running through Vegas at every pool club and whatever else, what really came out of that? Not a whole lot. I got more excited about going after a new goal. That pumped me up. So it was really a self-learning lesson. It wasn't as much somebody had told me, except for one person did point it out. I remember they had said it when I was in my early 20s, and it was my mom actually. And she's like, every time you do great, you just tear yourself down. You go out, you celebrate, you self sabotage. And that resonated with me. I wasn't perfect, but I would get better at watching out for it, better at watching out for it. Just recently, I said, because I'm in business, my fiance, I said, we'll take every quarter, get away, have a little bit of fun, because if not, I just grind, grind, grind. I'll grind for years. I just looked behind myself last week and I'm like, man, I don't think I have taken a day off in 2.5 years. I'm like, all right. So, and don't get me wrong, some days are stronger than others, totally booked out. Some days end up being a couple appointments working on your business rather than in your business, and so on and so forth. But actually taking a day off, it's been years, definitely has. So I do owe it to her. So more than anything coming up is more for her. I don't want to take that time for myself, but go right ahead.
That's wonderful, Mr. Richardson. I mean, I think it's amazing that you were able to find a partner that complemented you and you guys were able to just scale and you guys help each other create more success. Because not everybody does find that or is aware that you could do that or has the Playboy Mac Daddy skills to be able to create that. So that's awesome. And I love that. Um, what are some of the things that keep driving you and allow you to be able to grind nonstop? I know one of the things that you shared is like, well, in the past, I've learned you get me because I know myself. And this is one of the best ways for me to adjust, adapt, pivot. You get me and stay, king and just kind of dominate. And then everybody else is around me. But I'm the one dominating. What are some other things you get me specifically like for yourself that you do to keep you strong on those days where, for example, you have to find the motivation. Obviously, you get me. I want to ask you about your vision and your why as well, and then like how that ties in together with that, and how they, and then anything else that you have in there that you do to keep you going always.
So part of it is anytime I start to feel myself a little comfortable, then I'm like, well, there's a problem. If things are almost too easy, is what it comes down to, in which they should get to a point. Your systems take over, your processes, your training, and so on and so forth. But when they get dialed in, every time I can feel it, I'm like, okay, these are dialed in. And what happens is our production will go up in real estate, and our production goes up, and then the systems feel uneasy. And then I go back, I adjust the systems and add more to it. So it's constantly feeling the business where that comfort level is. Because as soon as it gets comfortable, I'm like, all right, it's time to add. It's time to add. It's at a constant state of being uncomfortable, because I just don't want the comfort feeling, because that means things are too easy. So every day I stick to, as far as the growth side, a very simple plan I call the 5x5 gold diggers. And I teach this, educate on this. And it's one, as far as state what you're grateful for. Two, commit to giving yourself 100% that day. Three, your income goal for the next year. I make mine shorter, 6 months. And then five daily tasks and five money making activities every day. So I teach this within my operation. So I'm constantly growing every single day. There isn't a day
Yeah.
that I take the back seat on it, no matter how busy I get. There's been times where I had all kinds of craziness on a Monday, and I said, you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm going to be taken off from this meeting because it's a crazy day, this 5x5. So a 5x5, if that gets skipped, the growth slows down. You don't stay ahead of the curve. You don't stay ahead of other people, because other people will take time off that 5x5 or whatever they do for their process. This will come up. There's a birthday, there's Easter, whatever. And they're like, oh, I'll skip it today. One skip leads to two, to three, to four, to five. And all of a sudden your business starts going like this. So I concentrate on that, even if it's uncomfortable. When I say uncomfortable, there's days like this week, for example, I'm back to back with meetings and appointments. So I'm just like, I'll just make it work. I'll just make it all fit into place. I will make it work. So nothing's going to get in the way of this. So that's a process to where puts me in line to production in the business is not slowing down. Contacts in the business, they're not slowing down. Activities in the business, they're not slowing down, which means money's not slowing down. And you have to have money so I can serve my operation, help my agents grow in their business at the end of the day. So that's something I do that is going to position me in that direction. And what it really comes down to with your question is I watch out for being comfortable.
Mm.
The minute I feel the slight bit of comfort, I'm like, forget about it. Take the uncomfortable meeting, make the uncomfortable phone call, do the uncomfortable actions, because that's what pays at the end of the day. You don't get big muscles in the gym being comfortable.
No,
You
you
don't
don't.
learn a new language, oh, super easy and super comfortable. It's a pain in the butt. But do you get something highly rewarding out of it? And that's what people miss in business, in what you do, whatever industry that you're in. If you're seeking out the comfort, you're not seeking out your goals. You're not seeking out big results at the end of the day. You're just being
Yeah,
comfortable.
right.
You know? Comfort is sitting on the uh, sofa eating Doritos all day.
I love that, by the way.
Thanks.
Um, yes. What are some of the things that for your real estate company you kind of have a vision for? Because Johnny is a master salesperson. You get me. So he has a very diverse, you get me, set of tools from scalpels to anything specific for the job, and he's an expert at that. And his social skills and social dynamics and his status because of all that together and his mindset together, which all you guys have been kind of watching and tuning in, they go hand in hand. What's your vision like on what you're doing right now? You get me, being one of the top companies. You get me in the entire United States of America. I'd say world because voted for Trump, but in the world pretty much. You get me in scaling and having that level of success, like your vision, and then the next like part and phase right now that you're moving towards like compelling wise.
Our vision right now, as far as we changed our real estate platform, it's been a big change over the last 60, 90 days. So on a national model, well, actually worldwide, not in every country though. So my vision is to have a operation that's in every single state. So now we switched to this
Mm.
model with an intention because I had a lot of real estate agents are like, I love your stuff. I love your content. I love your training because we do have a coaching platform. They're like, I wish there was a way we could work with each other. One lady in Destin, Florida. So I said, I started putting some thought into it, reached out. Oh, it's all about partners at the end of the day, brought in the right partner to make it work. So our vision is to go ahead toward now we have the ability to every single state to have another a real estate model. Somebody asked me with my coaching model, what's my vision? And with the coaching model, it's to give away for free. And they're like, what do you mean give it away for free? You invested so much money into it. Well, here's the thing. I want to work with other realtors in other states. Anybody that's in another state gets my coaching once a week, live calls, online portals, direct real estate VT. So I have now, I can give back. I'm giving training, I'm giving education, I'm giving my network, my partners to other people. So I'm helping them with growth. So I want to help people across the country. Plus, on top of it, we're in Mexico, we're in Canada, Italy's coming up. Tons of locations are coming up. We're in Puerto Rico. So now I can help people even outside of the US. Besides that, I want to have the ability, which I do have the ability, I want to do more and will do more as far as helping others grow. The average real estate agent does less than 6.5 transactions per year, failure rates at 93 plus percent. People don't have training, they don't have education, they don't have accountability, they don't have somebody helping them, assisting them. They just got a go-to guy that guy gave them a license, and it's like whatever happens, happens, and that is what happens. So
That's the
that's
sales
that.
training.
Yeah, that's the vision with it all.
And then for your system with the direct, I believe it's real estate lightspeed VT. What is the exact specific name
It is
for it? And then
it is direct. They can visit it at directrealestatevt.com.
can you talk about that and maybe some of the sales training that I guess you've put in there that you've learned yourself? And then so I'm kind of curious about this myself, to be honest with you.
It's
Because
okay.
I like mentors, you get me, and I like surrounding myself with people that are better than me. And I don't ever want to be the smartest guy in the room, you get me, ever. I want to be around people where I'm just like, that person inspires me. I want to be like that in my own way, like as I'm getting older now. You get me now, being 22, and then breaking the bank with 6, 7 figures like at a younger age. You do that by adding value to somebody else. Like, say I find a property, I bring it to Mr. Richardson. Mr. Richardson, I found a burn down, one of these fire damaged houses. We had it under contract for 30,000, rebuilt. It could be maybe 300, 400K. This person is had to move out of the state because they got a new job either way, so they have to get rid of it, and this is still costing them money. If you like to make money off this, you get me, and then you decide what you want to do with that. After I have it under contract. So something like that, you get me. Like, what are some of the things that you find in the system with like direct real estate VT and some of the sales training, like somebody like those expert level, like top tier, like top practices, that you would share now looking back, being a young guy, still at 40, uh, twice my age though, so I'll call you old timer, but I love you. Don't get any ideas. You're awesome.
So to give you an idea, so what all the real estate agents are getting similar training. They're getting from the same guys, everything else. So as I started out in real estate, my first check was on my broker's desk before my license came in. Now I was able to do that. What I did is I ran an insurance company for 2 years. It was life insurance and annuities. I did timeshare for 6 years. I did the car business for 9 years. I went into the toughest industries when it comes to sales. I took processes I learned from those industries. I immediately applied it to real estate. Well, everybody's just learning the same thing. Not that you should skip those things, but it all has to do with what about other processes with other industries that work. So think about it like this. What does Walmart have when you go into Walmart? They have a process. They're not open sometimes, closed sometimes. They're not out of inventory, sometimes have inventory. What about Target? What about when you go to your dentist? Your dentist, there's a process, there's a follow-up system. They're going to bring you back. They're going to send you the birthday cards. All these places, what they have in common is they have a process. Now, think about most real estate people. Do they have much of a process?
No.
No, they don't. There's not. They have a real estate license. Like, hey, they do the card poking. Hey, you in the market to sell, you in the market buy, call me, call me, call me, call me. It gets old. So what I immediately coming into real estate, and it's refined over the last years, as far as being in the game, seeing what works better, and then I take that content, I load it up in this system on a weekly basis. So I took that information from those other industries, compacted in a real estate, very similar model to insurance, sales, car business, sales techniques, timeshare, how to handle the customer, how to do the presentation, so on, what to ask, what are trial closes, so on and so forth. So I put all that information in so a real estate agent could go in there, never had a license, going through the process, know exactly what to do in any market, even if they're in Puerto Rico, how to build their list, how to make contacts with their list, how to go ahead and present properly, which is a buyer's consultation. Your lawyer brings you in. He just doesn't bring you to court. He does a consultation. We do the same thing with our company in real estate, and that's what we teach in the system. How do you do a consultation, and how do you take a buyer, for example, that says, I'm not sure if I'm ready to buy right now, and you turn that into looking at houses today and writing offers today. The average real estate agent's going to walk out of the door, hey, boss, hey, broker. They said they're not sure if they're ready. That's not a salesperson. They're waiting for a layup. And if it is a layup, you didn't close them, they closed themselves. So how are you being the salesperson, guiding them through the process, allowing them to make decisions with clarity? So this is some of the tips. This is some of the tricks that I put in this system so you can ask proper questions. I have a 4-question process that will line somebody up to where they don't have to show 10 or 20 houses. They'll show 2 to 3 houses max. If I go out there in the field, which I still do, if I go out there in the field, I show somebody one house, and I write the offer. And part of that is because I always want to show my operation. This dog still hunts. and I'll show you, you don't have to show 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 houses, because somebody gets exhausted that way. They're tired of looking. They're fed up with it. They just want to get closed, because you do have to help people. When I go to buy something, I think about myself, which is similar to I put in. I walk into a watch store. I'm not going there to waste my time, but I want a salesperson. I want a deal. I want somebody that's going to help me through the process to where I have an understanding what the value is at the end of the day. And that's what I look for. If you eye up and check all those boxes, you'll sell me every single time. But if you don't have a process, if you're just winging it, hey, sir, take a look around and let me know if you like anything. Okay, I'll look around. I know nothing about this $10,000 watch. I don't even know why I should spend 10 grand, because what is it going to do for me? I don't even know what it is. And people treat their businesses, real estate, that goes all businesses.
And they're not trained a lot of the time with that itself. Like
What's
if
that?
they were to go through a system like yours, you get me, most salespeople would be trained because let's say you walk into the watch store and you have a question about a $10,000 watch, Rolex or any other brand that you like, that salesperson might not even have the specifications, you get me, of what that watch could do for you, let alone ask what it is that you want in a watch before that.
Yeah, no, 100%. You want to be educated. You want to know your product. You want to be able to explain it. You want to be able to treat people, whether they're going in and just when you get in front of them, forget about what they look like, forget about the appearance. You want to treat everybody the same with your process, because that's another mistake salespeople make. They got the Bojo shoes on, they got Levi's jeans, whatever, and they're like, oh, they probably can't afford that. I'm not even going to spend my, yeah, did you look at that? You like it? Call me when you're ready. But forget about that. Every time you cut the process short, you will miss a sale 100%. If you do the same process and you have a walkthrough, for example, you have a product presentation, you're presenting value, you're authentic with that client, you're doing those things, which is all items that we teach in our direct real estate VT, is how to cater to the client, every single one. You will end up doing more production, making more deals, getting more referrals, establishing a strong business that's feeding you instead of you chasing after it, was it comes down to at the end of the day. Our product, and what it's about, is showing less houses, doing more transactions. Most realtors have it reversed. They show a ton of houses and they only do a couple transactions. You're out there
Mhm.
showing till your face is blue. That's why
Why do you
everybody,
think that is? Like a lot of the time, covering already having covered processes and systems. Why do you think most people would show so many houses from your perspective, and then they
there's
only have like a smaller percentage? Could it be? I'm sure it's a multitude of things. Maybe it's even their own attitude, the salesperson themselves. You get me? Like let's say you go down the road and it's like, oh, you get me? You want to go to a different town. You've already heard this story, of course, and it's like, okay, I just came. What town did you come from? Says the person in the middle. My town was, you get me, XYZ, bad attitude person. And then the other person, let's say same scenario, person in the middle. Oh, how was your old town like? So I can tell you what the new one's like. My town was excellent. It's the kind of people you're gonna find here are the exact same kind of people. They're excellent, like with yourself. And then the processes and everything. What do you think are some of the things that more salespeople, you get me, from what you've seen, training some of your own agents and other agents and people that you've trained, having gone through your system, you get me, scaling, having people going into your coaching programs and everything in between that and more, when you get me, that you've been able to identify where you're just like, I see something with that person or anything that from
yeah. So as far as what it comes down to, agents, the reason why they end up showing more houses than they want to or expect to is they allow the client to control the process. The client, because what's the client want to do? They just want to get out there and see houses. It's very similar. This process we used in the car business, we would do what's called a needs discovery. Okay, what are you looking for? You're looking for a 4-door. Okay, you want something in blue, doesn't have to have 4-wheel drive. What are you going to trade in? What's the payoff? What is your desired payment? And you go check off and you get a line of like 5 cars. despite what they said they wanted. I know you want to look at that, and we will look at that, but I also have these as well, and these will fit more appropriate to your budget because of XXX. Now you just showed them the 3 to 5 cars. Maybe they say, hey, you know what? The fact is, these would work for your budget. If you still want to look at the Toyota Avalon, it's going to increase your payment about $100. Is payment or car more important? It's a very similar process. The client came in to look at the car. They want to drive a car. They want to drive something. They're there to buy something. You got to match up all the pieces. Same thing with houses. When it comes to houses, they come in, they just want to start opening doors, and they open doors. No, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. Oh, maybe we're looking the wrong spot. But you bring them in a process. Okay, what part of town do you like? What budget range do you want to be in? Are you pre-qualified? From a scale 1 to 10, 1 being just starting and 10 ready to buy something today, where do you find yourself? Well, I'm a 5. Well, what would have to happen to take you from a 5 to a 10? Well, I'm waiting for my down payment. When's it going to be in? This Friday. Oh, you're going to have this Friday from a bonus. So as long as we
Right.
find the house, we have till Friday to get the earnest money. Do you see any reason why you wouldn't be writing an offer today? No, I'm 100% ready to write the offer. Perfect. Now you're out in the field. You know what they want. You know the part of town. You know the budget. You're going down the pre-qualification road, and you eyed everything up. You have a goal in mind. You have a destination is what it comes down to. Now take Realtor B. Realtor B gets a call. They're like, hey, what's going on? I want to go look at some houses. Perfect. Which one do you want to see first? Oh, this one. You're out there. They're like, hey, I found this one on X site. Let's go look at, oh, perfect. We'll go there. We'll go there. Then they come back. They're like, I looked at 20 houses. Well, what was the end factor? Didn't find nothing. We were just running all over town. I didn't even feed my dog tonight. He was home stuck in the cage. I got home at midnight, but I worked real hard. And that's where people get they bring up, they're like, real estate is so hard. So, yeah, of course, because you have no process. You're not doing anything of any process. You're just running here, running there, hoping to get lucky. If I blind myself and start throwing darts at a dartboard, I might get lucky once in a while, but I might hit some lady in the head in the meantime too. You know what I mean? It's just
Yes.
that's what it comes
300
down
points.
to. Yeah, 100%.
Right. 100%. I'm with you. Um, what is some of the things that you get me that a person could do to shift their mindset within, let's say, like maybe like within a year? If you were to give somebody like plan within like a year, you get me, and it's like follow this plan, you get me, you'll break 7 figures. Like I've done it. You get me? It's just do this. Don't be an idiot.
So this is without going to the 5x5 gold diggers. This will change your business if you do it right. I held a mastermind with this for 6 weeks. And just so anyone listening to this, it had taken 3 weeks for them to get on track. Because if you're not following the exact process, and anybody listen to this, if you reach out to me on Instagram, I'll send you a copy of it that I use for my operation. So one is getting your mind right. So getting your mind right every morning, as far as when you wake up every morning, you're giving yourself 2 gratitudes: grateful to be up, grateful to have legs. There are many people that don't. They got to crawl to the bathroom or whatever device they use. All right, be grateful that your eyes are open at the end of the day. Number 2, commit to giving yourself 100% that day. You're going to journal this down in some type of journal, or you could get a form from me. I have the forms pre-made. So you're committing to yourself. You've already told yourself you're giving yourself 100%. So subconsciously, you have engaged that in. You're not willing. You're going to really have to go against yourself. So when you slack off that day, you're like, I committed to 100, so I'm not doing less than 100. What your income goal is for that year. So you've already started off grateful. You've already committed, and you have your goal in mind. Then you're going to go into 5 daily tasks. Those daily tasks are going to be, if you're in real estate, listing preparation, contacts you're making with your database. They're getting it could be as far as a business plan together. It could be as far as making contacts. This is very critical because these are tasks. Tasks are not be confused with money making activities. Then 5 money making activities. Money making activities, you're in the activity. You're in it, you're doing a listing appointment, you have a buyer's consultation, you are writing an offer with a client. They're directly lead into money. So some people get confused. Well, I did a property search. That's money making. No, that's a task. You haven't gotten to the money yet. That's all preparation. Your preparation is the task portion. Your money's when you're like putting pen to paper, it's locked in. What you're doing with this is just like everybody has heard, best time to make a sale is right after you made a sale. The reason why is you're elevated, you're excited, you're walking around with conviction. You're like, I'm the man. Nobody can stop me. You do this piece of paper is doing the same thing for you. As you check off throughout the day, I'm a winner. I completed this task. I completed this task. So when you get on that sales call, when you call that client, when you call that referral, subconsciously, you have already told yourself you are winning. You have already closed some form of a task or a client because your mind doesn't know. It could have been something big, could be something little. That's why we feel excited if we clean a kitchen because our mind's telling ourselves you accomplished something. It was a kitchen. Who cares?
Get
So
me.
yeah, as long as, yeah, it's true. Yeah, if you scratch these off throughout the day and you do this proper, you don't confuse the two, and you have it written out first thing in the morning. You scratch it as the day goes on. You will have that sense of accomplishment. Your subconscious will be engaging, and you will do more activities. What you will find is if you do this correctly for 3 weeks, by week 3, your task and money making activities will not be able to keep 5 and 5. I've gone on to multiple papers on mine because now you're more lasered in. You're more effective. You're making more contacts every single day. You're getting more referrals. More clients are calling you back because they are noticing it. They're like, oh my goodness, this guy, this girl is so focused on their business. I don't want to work with anybody else. 3 realtors been calling me. They never miss anything. So it will create the structure. It'll create the small wins, which ultimately lead to big wins, and you will set yourself up for success 100%. I did this for myself. This is just something I started playing with. I got little ideas from other people that compacted it into the gold diggers. So, and I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's do this. And I started doing it myself, and my numbers went like this. They went through the roof. And then people ask me, like, it's got to be something crazy you're doing. You're spending like 30 grand a month in a lead system. I'm like, no, I created this piece of paper. They're like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, I'm dead serious. This is what I did. This simple. Don't get me wrong. I have some of those other systems as well for the operation, but this was the golden ticket, the 5x5 gold diggers. So, and then I implemented into direct real estate VT, which I implemented into the mastermind. Everybody that is consistent with it is very effective with it. Now, there are other people that have gotten in and they do it once a week. Well, that's what you'll get out of it. You're on a diet once a week, that's what you get. You're in a gym once a week, that's what you get. If you tell your wife you love her once a week, don't get much, and she's running off with the neighbor. So just one of those things. It's how it goes.
I love that, Mr. Richardson.
Thanks. Thank you.
What? No, this is all you, but I appreciate you. You're awesome. Jeez. Okay. Um, what are, I guess, some of the things that specifically, um, we've covered a lot, but I guess some of the more things that you're learning now and then you tell yourself when you were younger, like going back and having the experience that a lot of the young guys are developing now in the real world, coming from all walks of life.
Something I would tell my younger self.
Hmm.
Oh, sheesh,
And
man.
you'd be maybe even 3 times already or twice, or get me just looking back now, like your younger self from where you're at now.
Do we have at least 6 more hours?
Whatever you want, Mr. Richardson. This is your episode.
Now, the one that I'll pull out the
Put time aside.
main bullet points as far as I was told this when I was young. I did not listen. I thought it was bull crap. I was just like whatever. And it was forget about chasing the girls, forget about going out partying until 4 o'clock in the morning or goofing off. It's not going to serve you. It's not going to help you. I once the bell ended and in my 20s, I spent in the car business. I worked 9 to 9s. Now I ask myself now
Yeah,
how I even pulled it off. You're 9 to 9, 12 hours, and I would go out and carry on all night long, go home, get cleaned up, back in there, and I'd sell a ton of
I've done
cars
that.
that week.
I've done that with gym memberships. My highest day was selling 10 gym memberships in 2 days at an LA Fitness, where I'd cold call you. I'd have to get the person in. I have to do a walkthrough through the whole gym. I get me. I have to qualify. You get me, and then we got to close that same day because you're most likely not going to come back.
Yeah, you do it right on the spot. But what I would end up telling myself when I was a younger self was just forget about the party and forget about the girls. Focus on you. That's it. Don't worry about everything else. At the end of the day, if you don't make it to an event, no one cares. They're not like, oh my God, we are done. You didn't show up on Friday night. You didn't show up on Taco Tuesday. We are over with you. I would have said, stick my head inside my house, close the doors, read some books, stay focused, and get a mentor, get a coach of some nature. Now, I think about growing up in New Jersey. Not a lot of that was around during that time. There were people I'd learned from, but nobody that was like a mentor up my butt on a regular basis, or nobody I had contact with I could reach out to. There are people that pitched me on businesses, but I believe that was more of a them business, and that's all it really came down to. A lot of
You
MLM
can feel
stuff.
that, like your
Yeah.
gut will tell you, like that sixth sense. You don't really know what it is, but
Yeah, 100%. So if I turned it around, but at the same time, I don't regret any of those moments. I did what I did. I am where I am, which I'm very happy about the steps I had taken because the
inspiring.
relationship I made along the time, people I've met, the things I've done in my career, and a lot of times the learning lessons are a better lesson than even the nuggets that you get. Those learning lessons, those falls on your butt, those smacks in the face, those screw ups that you had where I was out goofing off and doing everything else. Because I could look at it on the other end and say I did amazing, didn't goof off, didn't do nothing in my 20s and 30s. And then what some people run into, they were straight edge forever, never goofed off. They hit 40 and hit a midlife crisis. Like, oh my, now's the time. If I don't do this now, and they screw up all their 40s and their 50s and 60s are just like, Rah. So it is what it is at the end of the day. But I would have told myself, you should be a little bit more smarter with some of these decisions and not be goofing off as much, is really what it comes down to. You know what I mean? There's a time and a place for everything. Nobody could tell me any different. I was a Mr. Know It All at the end of the day. So,
I'm pretty sure that served you though to a certain extent. You get me, kind of being hard headed, where it's like I'm a little like that myself, to be honest with you. Where it's like I don't know, dude. I'd rather not take advice from you, and you kind of just know where you're going. You're marching to the beat of your own drum, and it's like you stand out from the crowd. Like if other people would like watch you and like you're walking in, and they just everybody, it's like all eyes on you. It's like you're the star of your own reality show, but that's just your life. You get me? Because you just walk like that. It's just who you are. I don't know if it's like that for you, or if it was. I think
yeah,
it
well,
was, but
I think
like in your own
always,
way, of course.
yeah, you always walking with a bit of confidence and like you're the big stud in the room and you're in there rock and rolling and crushing it. You should always have that mindset at the end of the day, but also take
Yes,
in
of course.
information from other people that know more than you or making more from you. And some of it'll make sense, some of it'll line up. Even some of those people have some really bad strategies and work ethic, and ethics is not good. So you have to filter out some of it. So I
Stay
don't
away
avoid
from that.
everybody. I was with Ty Lopez at an event. One thing he had said, he goes, you
Nice.
know what? I just tend to listen to people. And if it doesn't sound good, I'm like, I disagree, and just walk away. There's no reason to be whatever about it, you know what I mean, and nasty or whatever else. Just like, I don't agree. Have a nice day. You know what I
I
mean?
like
Just
that.
yeah.
And then what are some of the things I guess that you've been working on lately, or that because we've covered some of the things that you'd go looking back, you get me, and it's like I'd share them with myself when I have those months where it's like I'm the top guy in the office. Um, what are some things that you guys I guess you're working on now, or any kind of direction that you want to go in specifically? Kind of like how you've been riff raffing, but any more or less like here, because we've covered like a lot. And I know I've tried to ask the awesome questions. I hope I've been asking awesome questions. I thought they were pretty badass questions. They were pretty kick ass. Not everyone asks these questions. They're good questions. Like,
Yep.
you're,
So to
so,
give you an idea, like my role has definitely changed. I'm still in the field helping clients. I told myself I would never stop doing that, as it's definitely adjusted because of running the business. So a lot of my focus is
as
on
a
a daily,
CEO.
yeah, as far as running more internal systems that allow us with client processes. It goes back to where I said Target, Walmart, they all have a process. If you log into their website and you look at items, there's a process how you're going to be retargeted, brought back, incentivized, and everything else. So that's where a large part of my week goes. Well, not all of it, because I'm doing a million other things, but I'm like, okay, what model out there this weekend? I'm going away, and specifically for an ISA department that we're putting together. That's just mechanical, moving through with a client process from the time they enter to the follow up to the nurture to when they get to our agents. At that point, they are a client that's ready to go and they're writing offers. And the reason why I want this is real estate's adjusting with all your big competitors out there, your Zillows, your realtor.com, and so on and so forth. So we have to stay up on the edge. So how we stay up on the edge is a customer service process. So the agents are so busy, if they're just hammering out calls, I said, well, let's streamline this down. We're going to build this department, which we're in the middle of. We have this department being built, so that department there is handling the client, getting them whatever they want while they're in their discovery stage. Then they're coming into the office, and when they come into the office, they're ready to go. They're ready to go. It's very simple. We never skip a buyer's consultation because that only lines up the process to write offers, and it helps. It's less. There's not as much stress for our clients either. It makes a very streamlined system and process. So at that point, they're writing offers. They're doing more production. At the same time, it's going to be tied in with part of that department where the agents are sending the information. ISAs are writing out the offers. It's going out. So this way, the agents continue showing houses, what's paying them money at the end of the day. So that's a huge part of the business that we're in the middle of building right now. And that final piece is why I'm going out of town to San Diego to work with a gentleman by the name of John Shiplak. So that is one part of it, because I'm like, right now, you can't continue doing the same thing in business and just over every day, every year, because you'll die. Like I said, if you're just continuing the same level, you are think about being in an ocean. If I'm just floating, eventually you're not going to float anymore. Eventually you're going to be bit by a shark. Eventually a wave's going to come over and knock you over. You need to be getting above, elevating yourself. So I have my binoculars out constantly, looking around the corner. What's coming up? What's the heartbeat of the business? What do the agents need? What do we need for culture? What do we need to keep everybody uplifted, excited, be out there energized with clients and not bogged down with all the bull crap work at the end of the day?
Do you want to talk a little bit about leadership if you have a little bit of time, and then kind of like wrapping it up? I know the last three questions that I want to ask, but you want to wrap it up with like leadership?
Yeah,
Yeah,
leadership, I believe, what it really
keep going.
comes
Yeah,
down to is leading from the front. You're leading from the front. You are not asking your employees, your agents to do something you're not willing to do.
can afford
You're
all
not
this.
you're not asking them to do something that you haven't done. You're not asking them to do something you want to jump out of your desk and do right then. I hear it constantly especially in real estate. Well, I worked with this one guy and he hadn't done a deal in 10 years. I'm like, well, that's not really leading at the end of the day. When you get to that place, if you haven't done a deal in the last 10 years, you should be having a whole sales management team that is doing that stuff, that's leading that, and you're running the back end, and that's all that comes down to. So if you're in the leadership end working with the front line, you better be working with the front line. If they say, I have the hardest person on the phone right now, the hardest client, give me the phone. We're going to call together. We're going to make this call together and we're going to get this tied down. And that's when you have respect. That's when you have people that will follow. You'll have people that want to work with you and continue learning versus, oh, I used to do those kind of calls back in the day. And, I don't do them anymore. I take care of this side and collect the checks. No, absolutely not. Get on that phone, show your people, because that's where leadership is earned. It's not given. It is earned and it is rented at the end of the day on top of it. So you start dropping the ball, you will not be a leader. You start screwing up, mistreating employees, you will not be the leader. If you don't have proof in the pudding or you haven't done something in a long time to show your worth, you will no longer be the leader.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
You're the CEO. Is there anything else that you want to kind of like riff raff with that? And I know the last 3 questions that I do want to ask afterwards.
Yeah,
What
really comes down to a lot of people want to be leaders at the end of the day, but they don't want to put the work in. They're like, I want to run an operation, I want to train people, but they comes down to it. You better be the first one in. You better be the last one out. There was a leader I had in the past that would constantly tell me, you got to be the first one in, the last one out. This guy was the first one out every day. He also had given me talks about being sick. And, if you're a real leader's never sick,
a lot of bullshit.
I would see this person, they were like, well, I'm going home. I have a cough. I want to be ready for the meeting. I'm like, have a cough? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I need my rest. I'm like, didn't we just go through a convention and an event and you just said this? And they'd be like, come on, man. Come on, man. And it's just like, what am I pushing for? Because really, you should be pushing up for the person above you. Well, that's not setting the bar very high. What do I have to go around that person? And then you're almost a jerk for going around them. They feel it's like, well, what'd you expect me to do? You put the bar over here. I'm like stepping over at this point. You're not making many challenges for me. So I have no choice but to go over here and just leave and do my own thing. So you have to be careful who you're in business with as well as far as leaders go, because leaders will bring you up or bring you down. They will 100%.
That's a million. If I had a bomb like Brad or something, I mean, I just
Well, there you go. You have to
explode.
get to the next show. Next show, you have to get one.
Yeah, yeah. The last questions would be, what would be like 3 unique facts about you, or like 3 weird facts, where it's like you like this with that, or you like unique though, things that I guess set you apart, but your own specific likes, what those would be. Whatever those are. Like I like dogs. I have 2 little dogs. I take care of them. Like 3 unique facts, like fun facts.
Well, I'll tell you what.
And for them,
I'll
and
be.
then they could find you everywhere, right here on social media, Johnny Richardson Jr. and then Johnny Richardson the Shark. You guys can do a Google search, and he will pop right up. He's gonna bite you.
So, so
Hit the follow
let
button. You'll be
as
safe.
far as the shark goes, a unique fact. Some people think it's just a symbol and me being aggressive. It did originate from a commercial I did years ago. But on top of it, I'm actually a really big shark lover. I don't talk Shark Week just because I like the symbol. I am really obsessed with sharks at the end of the day. I could talk to you about over 500 species,
Oh
every
wow.
every shark out there, and they discover more every year. Every shark out there doesn't stop moving while it's at rest, except for one, and that's a Mexican sand shark. That one actually stays still. It's about this big. So it's like when it comes down to shark facts, somebody was like, I can't believe you know so much about them. I'm like, yeah, it's just not a symbol. I actually enjoy them. I think they're really cool. They're amazing. A shark at great white at year one, it's going to have a 30% accuracy on its target. Year two, 60%. Year three, over 90%. So I relate that to business a lot. In year three, do you have a 90% accuracy or are you still at 30% because you're dying? So I'll relate that. So one unique thing is Most people don't think I know about sharks. I know a lot about sharks because it's just like I study them. Anything I find on the internet, I'll actually take some time and learn about it and everything else. I never had a want to go and do something and work with them. I think eventually I would get bored being out on the ocean that much. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I did grow up on the water. Number two, a unique fact I'll tell you as far as I'm a mama's boy. My mom is like the most important, my best friend in the world. Not everybody sees that or really knows that part about me at all. Just like cherish everything about her. My mom taught me a lot of my soft side and good work ethic and being humble and nice to people, always giving back. My dad really gave me my hard side when it comes to business. Number three, a very interesting fact is I know more about flowers than the majority of females I ever dated.
Ah,
Reason why is as a child, like I said, I was a little bit of a wild child. So throughout my teenage years, my mom would punish me by doing yard work. So I like learned about all these flowers and was educated which ones to split up and which ones would duplicate and you name it, the list goes on and on. And I just learned all this stuff about flowers and about doing yard work. I actually developed a liking for it at one point. So it never fazed me when they punished me because it was kind of cool and I'd always learn stuff. So that's something people just don't know about me. And not that I practice it. I'm not like a flower child with flowers all over my place, but I know about them. I'm educated with them. Anytime I go to a flower shop with a friend, I'm like, hey, what about this? They're like, heck, how the heck do you know this? And I'm like, well, this is what happened. So those are like three things that most people don't know about me.
I like that a lot, Mr. Richardson. Personally, 'cause I think you're really awesome. I think I told you that before you even followed me, and I'm like, oh, he followed me. I got excited. I mean, more excited than this, but I got excited.
There
It's
you
just like it's like
go.
when you close the sale like the first time, it's like, oh my God, because you're somebody that, for example, I didn't grow up wealthy. I don't care about that. Because I know that it's all knowledge. For example, if you have knowledge, you have a good skill set, you get me, you can, create. It's like Brad Lee says, make you $1 million. Can I get 20%? Can I get a little itty bitty? Let me make you $1 million, man. And implementing that and living yourself and living life like that. Um, what would be some advice that I guess you'd be able to share with me, like getting to know me specifically, that I could get better at in life? Because you could most likely see things like at a level where it's like you've had the experience, you've read books, you get me, and you're somebody that's older than I, and I respect your opinion.
Given advice, what I would say is continue doing what you're doing and put yourself in the most uncomfortable environments possible. Don't be afraid to ask any like picture who do you think's like really big that you almost think would be impossible to get on your show.
You.
Well, you hit that one, you got that one, so there you go right there. So put now you did that. Now put I would put six people's name on the paper, regardless who they are. Forget about if you think you can or think you can't. Don't even go down that road because as soon as you say you can't, you won't do it. So put them on the paper and put a goal together. Put that goal together. I work with somebody that has a top 100 list that has collected emails, gatekeepers, direct cell phone numbers, and they just pound them. They just pound them and they get a lot of stuff. And this person's very, very successful. They're helping us build out the Shark Circle, which is a intimate coaching program on top of our direct real estate VT. That's an 8-week program. It's a mid ticket, $3,000. So he had taught me this as far as your top 100 goes. So if I were you, I'd say start off with 6 right now, chunk it up. Then go ahead and start building it up to 100, but start today with 6 names that you want to go after. Subconsciously, what we do constantly, and a lot of it happens while we're younger, is it floats in the back of our head. Well, that would be cool, but it's not going to happen. That would be cool. It's probably not going to happen. Forget about it not happening. It has already happened. They've already said yes. Imagine the yes. Because whether you're selling something, pitching somebody, inviting them, what's crazy is what we envision the harder ones, I have noticed have ended up being the easier ones at the end of the day. They have always end up being the easier ones. So when we went ahead and went after higher end clients, I'm like, whoa, this is so crazy. They end up being easy to talk to, inviting us in the house, bringing us over, while the easier ones ended up being harder. Think about it when it comes to girls and we're in high school. The most attractive girl we're thinking of is normally not asked out. And all they want is a date. And no one asks them, like, whoa, that's out of my league. Whoa, that's out of my league. Meanwhile, she's like, man, I can't get a date to save my life. I'm so attractive and I might as well be ugly. At least I'd have company at this point. Does that make sense? So it's like go after the hard targets. Go after the hard targets. Go after them. Because guess what? Let's say three say no, but one says yes. That probably meant a lot more than the five smaller ones.
I mean, you got yourself an HB, a hot babe. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So that's what I would do at your age. And that's what everybody should do, by the way. You can start that at any time, 100%.
All right, I'll wrap it up. Mr. Richardson, I love being able to have you on the show. For all you guys that are here right now, you guys check out his platform on Direct Real Estate VT, and you have all his social media platforms that we do trust for Johnny Richardson Jr., Johnny Richardson the Shark. He does love sharks, and he will make you more money. Check him out, give him a follow. Do you answer messages sometimes when people message you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So you
Yep.
guys already know.
You can go ahead, drop me a message. I'll answer anybody. It's fine. As long as there's isn't any weirdness, we're good to go.
So anything worth his time. Uh, Guys, Mr. Richardson, thank you so much for doing this podcast, and maybe we'll do it again sometime in the future.
Sound good. Thanks for having me.